totally agree with Walt Whitman right there. Always focus on the brighter side of life. You know, when you keep doing that, at some point, you get to start forgetting that things are not really going right. It's not like they won't be there, but you would not really focus on them. It's the conversation on TOSTV Network, your digital first Pan-African news network. As always, we're coming to you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital city. The conversation promises to be quite engaging and insightful. I have a very interesting, topic of discuss for the big story today. But before we get into all of that, I'm going to bring you stories and happenings from across Africa, starting with Libya. Libya's eastern-based parliament on Thursday, that's yesterday, unanimously named a new interim prime minister, with the incumbent refusing to step aside. A spokesman for the parliament said over 140 members of parliament in attendance had chosen former interior minister Fatih Bashaga by acclamation after the only other candidate withdrew. Libya has been going through quite a lot. I think it was just yesterday that the prime minister actually escaped an assassination attempt. The way from Libya to Tanzania, a ban on 4 newspapers suspended while late Tanzania President John Magufuli was in power was lifted on Thursday, that's yesterday. Mwanahasi, Mawiu, Seto, and Tanzania Daima had their licenses suspended for publishing false stories amongst various other reasons. They were regarded as being critical of Magufuli, who ruled for 6 years before his death in March last year. That's it. That's the much we're bringing you from development across Africa on the conversation this morning. But before I proceed with the show, I'm going to bring you COVID-19 updates from across Africa. And after that, we're delving straight into the big story. You're still watching the conversation on TOSTV Network, your digital first Pan-African news network. It's about that time I bring you the crux of the conversation. That is the big story. But before then, as I always say, follow TOSTV Network across all social media platforms. That's TOSTV Network on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Subscribe to the channel on YouTube. And, of course, stream our content on www.tostvnetwork.com. Now into the big story. The focus for the conversation, the story today, is whether it's viable to actually compare 16 years of PDP government and relatively 7 years of APC government, because that's been what's been going on. People tend to compare, both administration, and then we're just going to be looking at, is it viable to actually do that? I'm not having this conversation myself. I have with me Mr. Douglas Bayosage. He's a legislative and policy analyst, and he's joining me via the phone. Good morning, Mr. Douglas. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be with you again.
Yes, thank you very much. So it's straight into it. It's been almost 8 years of comparing, the PDP-led government to the current APC-led administration. Popular opinion is that 16 years of PDP government or rule was a lot more favorable and far better than what we have now. What is obtainable from your perspective?
Thank you very much. I honestly believe when the APC government came into office in 2015, there were some benchmarks that the PDP had achieved. And, government is a continuum.
Yeah.
The APC government, I would say, have bettered some aspects of the country. And at the same time, there's still some places where they have not fared better. So I believe in 8 years of the APC, there have been some progress. It might have been slow, but there are some tangibles we can hold on to and say the government has fared very well in terms of administration and delivering the dividends of democracy to Nigeria.
Okay, but the argument largely is that under the current administration, everything from the economy to infrastructure to currency value have gone from bad to worse, and that this administration hasn't come up with any new or fresh idea to just expanding or what the previous administration has done. Do you buy that?
Firstly, I would say in terms of managing the economy, this administration started on a very slow footing. They did not set up an economic team on time, and it had its boomerang effect on the Nigerian economy. Most investors, most persons who had a lot of business activities and investments in Africa, some of them pulled out of the Nigerian economy, and I felt it had a very negative effect on the dollar naira exchange rate. So the government has been battling from then till now to at least give an economic balance, but it has not really been so rosy. But outside the economy, which is paramount to the GDP of the country, I believe in other sectors, the government has still tried their best to put some round pegs in the round hole and hit the ground running. It has not been rosy in all sectors, but I would say we have to just hold on to what the government has done and just hoping that as the administration hits the closing mark in 2023, something better will just come up from henceforth.
Okay, so let me just ask the question straight up: is it viable? Do you think it's sensible or it's okay to actually compare, 16 years of PDP government and then the 8 years of APC government? Do you think the comparison is fair?
I honestly think the comparison is not fair because PDP had 16 years. They had 3 presidents, that's Obasanjo, Yar'Adua, and Jonathan. The APC has just had only 1 president, and no matter what you think about the president, the current president, I believe he has tried his best in terms of trying to put money in the pocket of the poor. It's a welfare system, you might say, but in a nutshell, I feel he has done his best. His best might have not been good enough, but in 8 years of APC, I believe it has not been very rosy for the country in terms of welfare programs. I think the government has fared slightly better than the PDP in 6 years.
All right. Thank you so much for joining me on the conversation this morning.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you. And thank you to my viewers for joining me and staying with me up until this time in the conversation. Do not forget that the conversation comes to you every weekday, Mondays to Friday, same time, same station. So you should join me again next week. But before then, you can be a part of the community, be a part of the conversation. Follow TOSTV Network across all social media platforms. That's on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Subscribe to TOSTV Network on YouTube. And of course, stream our website for news, content, and stories from around the world. It's www.tostvnetwork.com. Thank you for joining me. My name is Ade Suwal. So you please have a restful, very restful weekend.